So that's 2 teaspoons for
1 gallon.
1 gallon.
This is actually sanitation liquid for all the utensils.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and for the carboy, everything. I just like to be able to reuse it, so I use it in a bucket.
Oh, yeah.
So any of the small tools I'm going to be using, as long as they're grit-free, let's drop them right in.
Okay.
This is for, in conjunction with this, measuring how much sugar is in your solution, so you can figure out how strong the alcohol is going to be.
Okay, right.
It's going to go in. And of course that's...
And is that what they call a gravity reading?
Yes. Yeah, this is the wine and beer hydrometer.
Okay. Is there a certain amount of time that this has to sit?
Not really. You could just rinse it really quickly. This stuff too, it won't really hurt your hands. It'll dry them out pretty badly though.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to grab some gloves really quickly.
Okay.
Okay. So once these have sanitized, put them out to dry a little bit. You don't want to wipe these down with a towel. That would just defeat the purpose.
Right.
Air drying is the best. And you want to make sure that anything that has tubular inside gets all the way through on the inside.
So you don't have to rinse it?
You could. This thing, if I see something inside of like this one, I could definitely rinse it. But it's not going to be, and the problem is when you're rinsing something along like this, it gets bumped around the sink sometimes.
Right.
So I often don't worry about it too much. This, you don't have to use the sanitation liquid. You could just put some water in it, boil the water. That'll sanitize the inside of the pot.
Yeah.
But I cheat.
Right. It's quicker to do it this way.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing with the carboy. We'll do that here in a second too.
Okay. And give it a swirl. And the sanitizing powder, you said you got that from just the grocery store in their section where they have like the wine bottles and stuff, yeah. Giving it a quick rinse. How many batches of mead would you say you've made?
About 5.
Cool.
I've bottled more than that though because friends have moved away and given me their carboys full of mead.
Nice.
So I have a lot of carboys now. And I have a lot of mead.
Nice.
So now I'm going to place this where it's going to stay as it's fermenting too. So we're just gonna...
Right, you don't want to be trying to lug it once it's full.
Yeah. So this is where it stays until it's ready to go downstairs.
So what are the heat and light requirements for it? Is it supposed to be like out of direct sunlight?
Pretty much out of direct sunlight. During the summer I'll wrap a towel around it if I need to, or I'll take it downstairs sooner. I find myself if it's sitting there and I can see it, I won't forget about it.
Right.
Otherwise it might overflow or the airlock might run out of liquid.
Right.
And then, might run the risk of contaminating with bacteria.
Right.
Contaminating mead or wine isn't that big of a deal except for flavor too. Alcohol kills bacteria. It's no big deal.
It's not going to make you sick, but it just might not taste so yummy.
It's just not going to taste good. Yeah.
Right.
So sanitizing, a lot of people will skip steps and not worry about it, and that's up to them. Myself, I really want to try to make sure this one is pure.
Right.
And the other thing is, you want filtered water or spring water.
Okay.
Not tap water. That would definitely change its flavor because tap water, chlorinated, fluoride, anything like that will affect the taste and will affect the yeast.
So this is some nice locally made honey.
Yeah, this is actually from last year, so I'm a bit solid.
Oh, that's nice. Ooh. Nice and drippy and oozy.
Yeah, if it would gone solid, I'd put it in a warm water bath. Don't want it. Simply because I find this easier than dumping it.
Right.
Because I know I'm just using water and honey, I don't have to worry about measuring so much, because I know that whole bucket of honey goes into here, and however much water goes with it. If you're using a bucket, what you want to do first, fill up your carboy with tap water, dump it into your bucket, and use a permanent marker on the outside and line that. So you don't have to worry about, am I overfilling it, am I underfilling it?
Right.
You know exactly how much liquid you need to fill your carboy. I want to put in about equal amounts of honey and water, so I'm not, you know, it's going to melt pretty easily for me.
Right. So you're going to add bits of honey and water at a time?
Directly to it, yeah.
Okay.
And then I add that to the carboy and do it in stages, so you're not doing all at once.
Okay.
So I can turn this on.
And that's just to medium high heat. So you just gently heat it until the honey is merged with the water, basically.
Yeah. You can see the bottom is a bit thicker.
Right.
But it's still liquid.
And the pouring process probably helps combine it a little bit too, stirs it together.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was to get the last of the honey out. You boiled water, adding it.
One nice thing about hot water in there too is the steam is going to help melt that outside.
Oh yeah.
Right, make it runny too. So you just want to make sure it's not going to melt the bucket. You don't want it too hot, right?
Right, just to steaming.
Yeah, and then you just kind of scrape that a bit to help it out.
So the bottom was crystallized, so it just takes a little bit warmer water and a little bit longer to get it
to liquefy it.
Right.
Yeah. But now that it's broken up, it'll melt a lot faster.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty much got it. And then we'll just top up the carboy with water for the rest.
Now I left a little bit of room in there, so because when we put the yeast solution in, it's going to need some room.
So you'll mix it with just the last bit of that water.
Okay. 2 ounces of warm, not hot water.
And that is a wine yeast?
Yes. I haven't used this one before. I have always used this one, which is the recommended one.
Okay, so that is EC1118. What's the difference?
This is actually a lighter yeast that's meant for champagne and such.
Oh, okay.
This is a bit stronger of a yeast, I believe.
Okay, so using a 1 ounce shot glass to do the measurements, it was 2 ounces of water per packet of yeast, and you're using 2 packets. So 2 packets, 4 ounces. Combined in a bowl.
We do want warm water, so I'm just going to put the last little bit in here.
Right. When you're adding yeast to water, you don't want it to be hot or that will kill the yeast. So you just want it to be warm.
Yeah, I'm going to add a couple of things of cold water first.
Okay, yeah.
And then just 1 or 2.
So 2 ounces of cold water added to the 2 ounces of hot should make just the right temperature for the yeast to be happy.
You want it about room temperature.
Right.
Warmer, so.
Yeast really like just like lukewarm, hey?
Yeah. I got my fingers in there.
And into the water.
And do not stir.
Don't stir it. And then how long does it sit?
15 minutes.
Sits for 15 minutes and then it'll start to be all bubbly, like when you're making bread.
Yes.
So this is after it's sat for 15 minutes. Give it a gentle stir. And then does it sit longer or is it now ready to go in?
It's pretty much ready to go in.
Okay, so now add the yeast. Well, the yeast will slowly mix in to the whole jug. the last bit of water there. And then that's it. Do you stir it at this point, or?
No, I don't bother.
Okay.
I mean, you can, but it's not really going to. I mean, you can see it starting to mix on its own too.
Right, and as the yeast bubbles, it'll mix itself.
Exactly, because the yeast is going to fall to the bottom, because this is where a lot of sugar is too.
Right.
So, and as the yeast eats the sugar, it produces carbon dioxide, which makes the bubbles rise up. And that's when you have to be careful with your airlock. This little thing. If the bubbles reach the airlock in here, it'll come up into the airlock and start foaming out. Oh. So you have to watch it, and this will happen a lot if you're using any fruits and stuff in your mead, because fruits make it happen faster.
Right, extra sugar.
Extra sugar. So if that happens, you have to rinse out your airlock constantly.
Okay.
And put it back in. So, and some people will use, most people use water in these. You can use an alcohol if you prefer, though, to make sure it stays sanitized. So vodka, that kind of thing. But I just use water. So, and I dip the end in the sanitizer again, because I touched it.
Right.
The idea with the airlock,
Okay, you want to drop that centerpiece in so it's full of air.
so the center tube, the air will come up the center tube and lift that center thing up, that little cap. It'll lift it up, and there's holes around the bottom of the cap, which will release the air once it gets the height. If you overfill your airlock, the cap won't be able to lift properly, and it won't release the air.
Okay, so you don't want to overfill it to
that line there.
that center line, basically.
Yeah, and I have it too full, you can see, so I need it released a little bit. And there we go. And that way that little cap has the room to lift up enough to release the air bubbles.
Okay.
Place it in. Don't touch this after you've sanitized it. Just plonk it in there.
Okay.
And you don't want to hammer it in because you need to be able to take it out eventually.
Okay. And then what's the process from here? What is it? How long does it sit? What does it do?
I like to keep it in a place like this because I want to see it every day, at least for the first week to 2 weeks. And that way I can see if I need to change the airlock really fast, that kind of thing. After that, it's just time and waiting. I didn't measure the amount of honey with this little thing this time, which I could still do. I'm not going to worry about it though. But this is to measure how much alcohol content it's going to have at the end. Other than that, you just wait.
And how long about do you wait?
You'll want to siphon it out of this carboy into another one, or to bucket back into this one every month or so.
Oh,
and that keeps it clear, because as the yeast works, of course yeast dies, and that's where you get all that gunk on the bottom of your carboy. So you have to siphon it out and keep changing it over to keep the silt from building up.
Okay, so you need 2 carboys and you switch them back and forth every month.
Yeah, thereabout.
Okay.
Yeah, as you age it, it doesn't have to be as often, but you do want to keep doing it to keep it a clear alcohol. And just when you know it's ready, you can tell by the airlock. Eventually, as the yeast starts working, you'll see the airlock bubbling, constantly releasing air bubbles.
Right.
Once it's down to 1 air bubble a minute, then you can bottle it.
Okay.
It does take a long time sometimes, so it can take about a year.
Okay, so changing it from one carboy to the other every month for up to a year.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Depending on how much honey you've put in. This will take about a year. This mixture. Yeah.
So maybe we'll touch base with you again next month and we'll see the carboy change process.
Sure. Yeah, the siphoning.
Great. Thanks, Shawna.
No problem.